To make the wand, I have cut out the paper template directly from the template sheet, from the pattern sheet, exactly as I did for the wings, and then I've traced it onto the back of the glitter fabric. Again, exactly the same, except that I've only done one instead of two. You then need to cut it out. When you're cutting out the star, you'll find it easier, rather than making your way around and pivoting at each of those points, it's a lot easier to just cut each point from the outside to the inside. So I just work my way around, cutting each of these points away, starting at the tip of the point and then making my way towards the middle. Any little stragglers you can grab with your embroidery scissors afterwards. So don't worry too much about those. Just snip that little bit off. Okay, once you've done that, you're going to use the pointy end of the cocktail stick, just like we did with Cinder Mouse's broom, but we are going to push it upwards this time instead. So the point needs to be facing up, and you push it through her arm, just through one of the seams near the end. Wiggle that point through, just slowly and carefully. You don't want to split the seam or the arm. And pull it through so that she's kind of holding that handly bit. And then once you've pulled it through, you can leave it the full length, but obviously that's quite long for a wand. So I cut off about probably a thumb's length, between 1 and 2 centimetres, or 1/2 and 3/4 of an inch off the end. Just, you can use your paper scissors or your craft scissors. And then obviously that leaves quite a rounded bit at the end, so I just crush that a little bit with my hemostat just to flatten it a little bit. It's still going to be quite bulky, but don't worry too much. Once you've done that, you need to add quite a big blob of glue to the centre of your star on the back. Quite a big lumpy blob, as you can see. And then you're going to stick your star onto the cocktail stick with that blob of glue. Don't press it too hard. You want the blob to kind of wrap around that cocktail stick, and then you're going to leave it to dry for as long as it takes for that bit to be really dry before we move on to the next section. So I would leave it at least half an hour to an hour minimum, depending on the kind of glue you're using, and then we'll come back and we're going to back it with some felt. As you can see, it's quite bulky, so if you tried to put another star of the glittery fabric on the back, you'd just end up with a big gap all around the back. So we're going to back it with some felt and then chop it off. But as I say, you don't want to do that until this is totally dry. So we'll leave that to dry, and then I'll come back and show you the very last bit. Once your glue is dry enough, then you can glue the backing on. So you need to whack, you can bend the arm out so it's wherever you need it. Put a load more glue all around the edge. With this one, you specifically want it to squeeze out the edges, so you want it on the whole star. And then you only really get one go at this, because once it's stuck, you don't want to be moving it. Felt is tricky to stick to things, so make sure you're kind of committed when you stick it on. So we're going to stick it on to the star, and then you need to hold it with your thumb. You're kind of wrapping this felt around the star at the back and pressing it so that the whole of the star is under your thumb and between your fingers, so that all of it is in contact with that felt. And you just keep pressing it. You want to keep hold of it for maybe a minute or so until you're absolutely sure that it's stuck. And don't worry if the glue splodges out of the edges, because we'll cut that away. So I'm just going to keep holding this, and then I'll come back to you once it's had a chance to dry and set. So you hold on to it for a minute or so, then just leave it for another half hour or so, and then we'll come back again. When your second lot of glue has had a chance to dry, all you need to do is to cut off the excess felt around the star. So to do that, you want your sharpest, pointiest embroidery scissors, and you're just going to cut the felt directly along the edges of the glitter fabric. Again, I'm struggling because I'm trying to make sure you can see what I'm doing. Let me move it a bit closer to myself. Hopefully you can still see this. You just bend the arm wherever you need to get it so you can move the star, and then you just go on and cut all the rest of the star out, and then your fairy is done.